No more tuna in New Jersey. The tuna is now swimming across the ocean to Switzerland for the next 2 years. What do I mean by that? Tomas Tatar signed a 2-year deal to play in Switzerland, thus ending his NHL career possibly. We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play announcer, Devils Wire Pucks Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. I forgot to mention it in the previous episode. First and foremost, congratulations to Team USA for winning gold at Worlds for the first time in 92 years, nearly a century. How can you not be romantic about sports? Something else I enjoyed watching was the entire team holding Johnny Gaudreau's jersey. I have no doubt in the back of my mind that if Johnny were alive right now, he'd be playing with Team USA for both Worlds and for Nations. May God rest his soul. I hope his family is doing really well in their time of recovery. How can you not be romantic about sports? I'm going to continue to say that. There were no Devils representatives on Team USA. However, there were some players on different teams that also received a medal. Team Switzerland, who got silver, you had Nico Hischier, Timo Meier, and Jonas Siegenthaler. Unfortunately, Hischier wasn't able to finish the rest of the tournament due to an injury, but I saw a video make its way on social media, and Hischier looked heartbroken, and obviously a lot of the Nico Hischier fan pages had a field day with that. Team Sweden, they got bronze. You got Jacob Markstrom in between the pipes. He looked really strong throughout the course of the tournament. But let's circle back to Switzerland because that's going to be one of the talking points for today's episode. Why is that? Well, Tomas Tatar will be making his way to Switzerland to join EVZ. And that means Tatar is no longer a Devil. Not only that, he's no longer in the NHL. On today's episode, in the first segment, we will look into the Tatar signing, him going overseas, and I will share my thoughts on the matter. Then in the second segment, we will do a retrospective discussion talking about Tatar's 2024-2025 season. You will also hear from Tatar throughout the course of the episode. I will play some of his sound bites from exit interviews. And to close out today's episode, I will talk about Brad Shaw once again because the Devils have made it official. He will be joining Sheldon Keefe's staff come next season. All right. Tatar spoke about his pending free agency during exit interviews. He also said something quite compelling. Take a listen.
You're a pending free agent. Is there any thought to want to come back here and have those discussions begun?
Yeah, I know it's too early. We basically just ended the season. I don't really know what the future holds for me too. So I have to make some decisions, and we'll see what's going to happen.
Are you planning on going to Worlds?
Unfortunately, I can't. I have to be here for family matters till end of the May. So I'm going to stick around here.
I don't know if you caught that, but Tatar revealed that he was not going to participate in Worlds because he was dealing with a family matter that would keep him in the States until late May. Well, I'm not trying to speculate or anything. I'm not trying to make this official. I'm just trying to put two and two together. Maybe Tatar was talking with the team. He was just trying to see how it was going to work out. It's late May right now. He signed a 2-year deal with a Switzerland-based team. Maybe he just needed to stay on the East Coast to make sure his family was good. And now they're all packing up and gearing up for next year's hockey season overseas. Can't confirm or deny that. I just found that somewhat interesting. Tatar is no longer a Devil, and here's the press release courtesy of EVZ. The EVZ has found its ideal player for the center position. That's actually a little interesting. I'll circle back to that momentarily. Tatar will join the Zug team from the Devils for 2 years starting next season. The 34-year-old has spent the past 16 seasons in North America, 14 of them in the NHL. Tatar played a total of 927 regular season and 56 playoff games for the Red Wings, the Golden Knights, the Canadiens, the Devils, the Avalanche, and the Kraken, collecting 509 points, 234 goals, 275 assists. Reto Clay, who is the general manager of that team, was quoted to say, in recent years, Tomas has regularly played at the wing position. With us, he will be used as a center. That's interesting because Tatar isn't really a face-off specialist, and I think that's what they might use him as, because according to Nick Villano of Pucks and Pitchforks, Tatar took a total of 19 face-offs last year, and he hasn't taken more than 50 in the season since before 2018. Yet at 34 years old, EVZ is moving Tatar to center. To each their own. I don't really know what to make of that, but I'm happy for Tatar and this new opportunity for him. Here are my expectations for Tatar heading into free agency. I talked about it in a few prior episodes. I expected for Tatar and the Devils to move on. Unfortunately, they couldn't recapture that same magic from the 2022-2023 season. I think Tatar was also given a bad hand, and I'll talk more about that in the second segment, but Fitzgerald said that it was time to change up the roster a little bit, and here we go. The first domino piece has fallen for the Devils. Tatar will not be back, and that opens up a potential spot for a different player. Now, Tatar wasn't an expensive player. He was signed to a vet minimum, so that doesn't really clear up all that much. But now the Devils can focus on, once again, how do they shapeshift their bottom six? Because in the words of Fitzgerald, just wasn't good enough. We'll talk more about Tatar's tenure with the Devils momentarily, but before we continue, let me tell you guys about wonderful pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller all day long. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's a perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for the satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Okay, Tomas Tatar. Let's go back a few seasons, shall we? During the Devils' historic 2022-2023 season, Tatar played in all 82 games. He had 20 goals, 28 assists for a grand total of 28 points. And he had a plus-minus rating of plus 41. I don't remember seeing a player with that high of a plus-minus rating in quite some time. It doesn't just happen by accident. Tatar had an incredible year that season, and he was a big X-factor piece for New Jersey. He was on the same line as Dawson Mercer and Nico Hischier. Fun fact for you, the Devils dominated teams when Hischier and Tatar were on the ice together. They had a 64.2 expected goals percentage. So that duo was one of the reasons why the Devils were racking up a lot of wins. Tatar, the previous season, he was actually pretty solid in terms of contributing. I think a lot of people forgot about it, but 2021, 2022, 76 game appearances, 15 goals, 15 assists for a grand total of 30 points. Nothing to write home about, but it's just like, okay, you got another scoring option. Here comes the 2023 offseason. It was widely speculated that Tatar was going to return to the Devils, but unfortunately, he kind of got screwed over. He changed his agent, and I guess he was demanding for a decent sized contract. The Devils moved on. They traded away Yegor Sharangovich for Tyler Toffoli. There was Tatar's replacement. There was just no room for him. So what happens to Tatar? He signed with the Avalanche to basically prove that it wasn't a fluke that you put up those types of numbers. Unfortunately, his tenure with the Avalanche was very short-lived. He only appeared in 27 games. He had 1 goal, 8 assists for a grand total of 9 points. He was later released by the Avalanche, and then the Kraken picked him up. 43 games played with the Kraken, 8 goals, 7 assists for a grand total of 15 points. He had a plus-minus rating of +8. All right, he's starting to figure something out, but it's just like, why not? Why not give Tatar another look? I'm sure that was the mindset Fitzgerald had. Maybe if he has the right line mates, maybe he can recapture some of the magic that we saw a couple years ago. And that's exactly what happened. Devils reunited with Tatar during the 2024 offseason, and his numbers were pretty abysmal. In 74 game appearances, he had 7 goals, which was 12th on the team, 10 assists, 14th on the team, 17 points. He was tied for 12th alongside Kovacevic and Pesci. He had 3 power play points. He took a total of 19 faceoffs. Going back to what I said in the first segment, it's interesting that the organization that he signed with over in Switzerland wants to use him as a center because he's not really a faceoff specialist, but I digress. He won 10 faceoffs, giving him a faceoff win percentage of 52.6%. Was Tatar the worst player on the team? No, but it was a far cry from what we saw a couple years ago. Sometimes you just forgot that he was out there. His expected goals for rating, 26.9. His expected goals against, 23.6. Both ranked 16th on the team. Before I give my thoughts on Tatar, here's what he had to say about his second tenure with the Devils, working with Sheldon Keefe. That's something I'm going to talk about momentarily, and accepting a new role with them. Take a listen.
How do you assess your season on a personal level?
Well, tough. Definitely play a different role than I used to. The role of our line was not to be productive, but to help the team gain momentum. So something very new for me, but for this team, I accepted, and I just wanted to do as much as I can to help them, to win games and then get to the playoff.
And how was your first season under Sheldon Keefe?
Good. I mean, obviously new coach, new system. So it was something, what we worked since camp, and I think as a team we handle it well. I think we're structured. So it's now up to both coaches and players to be better and come back stronger.
You know that you're a tremendous teammate. Was it hard to accept the role that you had, or did it take you time to accept and embrace that?
It was challenging for sure, but for this group, I was willing to do it with no problem. Obviously, lots of friends. I do really like it here, and that's why I came back and try to help the team. And I was okay doing it. It's not my preference, but for a team and for able to win and get to the playoffs, I was willing to do it.
Okay, here are some things I want to highlight. I mentioned in the first segment that I believe that Tatar was given a bad hand. What do I mean by that? Well, a couple years ago, his line mates were Nico Hischier and Dawson Mercer. So, to no surprise, he was able to contribute a lot more. His role was bigger. But who were his line mates primarily this season? He was on the fourth line, and who else was on the fourth line? Justin Dowling, a career AHL player. Nathan Bastian. I don't know why people are fond of Bastian. I'm sure he's a great guy. In fact, I know it firsthand. I've interviewed him, but there's nothing really spectacular about him. In fact, I don't expect for him to be back with the Devils next season. Same with Dowling. But getting back to Tatar, working alongside Dowling and also Bastian, Curtis Lazar at times, it wasn't really a recipe for success. And Tatar even talked about how he had a different role with the team this time around. What was his role? It was to provide energy here and there and make sure that you don't become a liability. Like I said, his expected goals for and his expected goals against, it was both stats were middle of the pack. So it's not like he was making a big impact either way, good or bad. It's just he was just a filler. And I think that kind of screwed him over a little bit. And with the whole thing that happened with his agent and also the Devils going after Toffoli in 2023, I think that screwed Tatar out of getting a big pay increase because people were saying that he could get a multi-year contract, whether it was with the Devils or another team, but nobody was biting. It wasn't until fall that the Avalanche decided to take a flyer on him. Tatar is a great guy, don't get me wrong, but like I said in the first segment, it was time to move on from him. And let me highlight something. Yes, he returned to the Devils, but the circumstances were a little different. I talked about his role, but let's talk about who was behind the bench. A completely different staff, I'll tell you that. And Sheldon Keefe was the kingpin because he's the new head coach. Sheldon Keefe and company sort of changed how the Devils went about things. Like they shied away from being a run and gun type of team to focusing more on defense. Had its pros and its cons. The pro is that the Devils, they were a pretty good defensive team. The con is they got shut out way too many times. I'm just like, I think the offense took a couple steps backwards too much for my liking, but I'm sure that's going to change come next season. But anyway, I think just everything that's happened with Tatar the last few years, I do feel bad for him, but I predicted it. I didn't anticipate for Tatar to return to the Devils, and I was gearing up for him to possibly retire because I don't think there was another NHL team that would have been interested in signing him. But good for him. 2-year deal over in Switzerland. Seems like he's going to get a bigger role. I'm sure they're going to rely on him for leadership. I think his NHL career, more likely than not, is over because once those 2 years are up in Switzerland, I don't think any other team is going to sign him. And it's such a shame because he appeared in almost 1,000 career regular season games. But I don't think he's going to mind all that much. Best wishes to Tuna moving forward. Okay, to close out today's episode, let's talk about Brad Shaw once again. I talked about him in a recent episode, but the Devils have made it official. The Devils announced on Tuesday that they have an agreement with Brad Shaw to join the organization as an assistant coach on Sheldon Keefe's staff. He will start in an official capacity on July 1st. The announcement was made by Tom Fitzgerald. Shaw, who is 61, was with the Flyers for the past 3 seasons. He finished last season as the club's interim head coach, taking over from John Tortorella on March 27th. Posting a 5-3-1 record, Shaw was originally hired as an associate coach on July 5th, 2022. Shaw served as an assistant coach for the Canucks during the 2021-2022 season and for the Blue Jackets from 2016 to 2021. Columbus reached the playoffs in 4 of his 5 years there. Worth mentioning, John Tortorella was also behind the bench with the Blue Jackets. Before his time in Columbus, Shaw served as a member of the Blues coaching staff for 10 seasons from 2006 to 2012 as assistant coach and as an associate coach from 2012 to 2016. Shaw was behind the bench when current executive vice president of hockey operations for the Devils, Martin Brodeur, played his final NHL season with the Blues in 2014-2015. I don't think anybody really wants to talk about that. Brodeur is a lifetime Devil. That 1 year with the Blues is an asterisk. Nobody wants to address it. But anyway, Shaw, he was there when Brodeur and Allen were teammates. Remember, I said in a recent episode that Jake Allen is so old that Martin Brodeur is his former teammate. Anyway, enough Brodeur and Blues. Shaw has an extensive coaching resume, also serving as an assistant coach with the Islanders during the 2005-2006 season and finishing the year as the team's interim head coach, replacing Steve Sterling, where he coached the Islanders to an 18-18-4 record. He's also served coaching stints in the AHL, the IHL. Here's a little funny nugget for you. During the 2000-2001 season, Shaw served as the head coach of the Detroit Vipers, who were in the IHL. He coached Sheldon Keefe, who was in his first professional season. So he and Keefe go way back. Now, a lot of people were confused, and rightfully so. Why didn't defensive coach Ryan McGill get his contract renewed after the Devils had a really good season in terms of defense? Well, McGill was a part of Lindy Ruff's staff and also Travis Green's staff. Remember when Lindy got fired, Travis Green was the interim head coach. Ryan McGill was still there. If you just wanted to call it the Ruff and Green era. Basically, Shaw is Sheldon's guy now. Sheldon wants his own staff. Now, you can debate all you want, but here are some facts. Jamie Drysdale saw his game elevate under Brad Shaw. Zach Werenski saw his game elevate working under Brian Shaw. Werenski is a finalist for the Norris. So the results do show, and Shaw's been around the block before. I can understand the frustrations, and honestly, I was a little surprised when I saw that McGill wasn't going to get his contract renewed. It goes to show you how messy the industry can be at times. It's a tough business, but I'm excited to see what Shaw can potentially do with the Devils. He's now Sheldon's guy, and I think Sheldon has a lot of trust in him. We'll see what happens, but that's where we stand with today's episode. Let me know your thoughts about Tomas Tatar and him signing a 2-year deal to play in Switzerland. Do you have any fond memories of the tuna? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening once again.